Sharing the screen. Okay. All right. Let's start it. All right. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, May 20th, 2024 Development Activities Meeting held in collaboration with the Hill District Consensus Group, the Hill Community Development Corporation, and the Hill District Collaborative. So what is a registered community organization? It is community organization. So a community organization can apply to obtain a formal status as a registered community organization with the city. Registered community organizations play a formal role in helping channel community input about development projects in their geographic area in the city. Becoming a registered community organization requires meeting certain criteria related to organizational standards, transparency, communication, and etc. There is a biennial application / renewal process within city planning. And what is a development activities meeting, or a DAM? Pardon the acronym. At a development activities meeting, a developer presents their proposal and the community asks questions and gives comments. It is one part of the development process for projects that meet specific thresholds before they can go to a public board or commission hearing. So the development activities meeting is held with a developer, the registered community organizations, plural in this case, the community, and planning staff. It is held at least 30 days or more prior to going to the public hearing or with the board or commission. So it's held that way so that you can provide your public comments and so that registered community organizations can provide any additional comments that they have to that board or commission. And so it is for at least one of the 4 board or commissions listed below, which are the Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Adjustment, Historic Review Commission, or the Public Art and Civic Design Commission. Oh, and I apologize. So myself or a designee, which tonight is Austin Herzog, will provide a development activities meeting staff report to a board or commission, whichever board or commission the project is actually going to. So what requires a development activities meeting? That criteria is listed on the right of your screen. So this is the criteria for the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And as you can see, it's listed on the screen. You know who your registered community organizations are. Tonight's agenda is inclusive of the Heron and Wiley project. It's at 2930 Heron Avenue. The project applicant is Lakeisha Bird, and the developer is Communion LLC. And prior to providing information relative to the project, we will allow each of the registered community organizations to provide information in the engagement for this project. And first up is the Hill District Consensus Group.
Thank you, Osei. Hi, everyone. My name is Britt Collins. I'm the RCO coordinator for the Hill District Consensus Group. And thank you for allowing us this opportunity to present. Next slide, Osei. So the Hill District Consensus Group is a membership-based community organization, and our bright beginnings equipped us to become the Hill District Strategic Planning Table over 30 years ago. It's also important to note that several Hill District community representatives and their residents created our table to help protect residents from displacement, build solidarity, and to focus on development plans according to the Hill District cultural legacy and their perspectives. Next slide. So our mission, the Hill District Consensus Group's mission is to create effective pathways for intergenerational residents to overcome economic, social, and housing disparities. Just to quote, what we represent, we stand for equity and social justice as it relates to race, class, gender, or true heritage and other areas of disenfranchisement in our community. And we are committed to standing up for policy change and ill will political practices to help improve the conditions of our community. We believe the people that are most marginalized by injustice have rights and should play a central role preserving our culture as well as our community. Next slide. So a little bit about our process. Whenever a developer reaches out to us, we do have a two-step process or in two phases. Phase one is just the general concept review, which happens with the board and staff. This phase centers on defining the conceptual and schematic form of the project. Developers should generally describe the project alignment with the master plan development principles. We also have an expedited review process for projects conducted by Hill residents or Hill-based organizations aligned with master plan goals and located in Hill and directly benefiting Hill residents and organizations. Next slide. So this is just an example of our rubric. I'm not going to read over, but just for sharing purposes, this is what we would use to score that, the developers and their project during our review process. Next slide. In phase two, we then have the design community impact review, which is a community public meeting. At this phase, the community reviews the project in more detail prior to an applicant's comments, commencing with contract documents. This phase is intended to review the progress of the design and to provide a detailed review of potential benefits to community residents, businesses, and organizations. Specific points to be addressed would include, economic benefits and fiscal benefits, employment benefits, housing benefits, community service benefits, smart growth and environmental health benefits, and historical, cultural, and or artistic benefits. Next slide. So for May 2024, we recognize the Communion LLC Heron and Wiley project. We have been engaged with Lakeisha, and the project is currently under review. Next slide. We just want to invite everyone to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also you are able to get in touch with us on our website, www.hdcg.org. Thank you very much. Thank you, Osei. So I will jump right in for the Hill District Collaborative. I also, the Hill District Consensus Group and the Collaborative work co-jointly together in the development review process. And so I will go through the slides on behalf of the Collaborative as well. Thank you, Osei. So the history is that the Hill District Collaborative is a not-for-profit registered community organization representing the historic Hill District. We were formed by concerned Hill District residents and business owners who want to ensure a clear community development review process with a high level of community engagement. We became a City of Pittsburgh registered community organization as of March 9th of 2022. Next slide. Our vision at the Hill District Collaborative is to have the Hill District redeveloped into a safe and economically thriving community that maintains its historical culture. Our mission is to inform, engage, and connect Hill District residents landowners, business owners, and nonprofits so that the community's interests and positions can influence decisions on real estate development, economic development, and public safety. And our purpose is to cultivate a collaborative forum that is inclusive and respectful of all community members. Next slide. So our focus area, we look, for mixed income affordable housing, affordable home ownership, clean and environmental energy projects, and we like to facilitate connection between African-American business owners and real estate developers. Next slide. As mentioned before, which I will not read for us again, just in the interest of time, the collaborative follows the same review process as Hill District Consensus Group. Next slide. And again, for the May 20th, 2024 DAM meeting, we do have 2930 Wiley Avenue with the Developer Communion LLC, and the status of the project is currently under review. Thank you, Osei.
Thank you, Brittany. Next is the Hill CDC, and I will pass it over to Dylan. Slides.
Thanks, Jose.
Here we go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dylan Brown. I'm the Policy and Planning Associate with the Hill CDC. Just to give you a little background on our organization, we are celebrating 38 years of operation, and we always live by the motto of where cultural legacy meets future innovation. We're a place-based organization that focuses on the revitalization of the Greater Hill District. Next slide, please. All right, so the Hill CDC works in partnership with both residents and stakeholders of the Hill District to create, promote, and implement strategies that connect plans, policy, and people which direct compelling community development opportunities in the Hill District. This is our mission statement. We break down our mission into three pillars. Next slide, please. Those three pillars are people, place, and policy, and they represent the three different ways that we approach our work in the Hill District as a registered community organization. Next slide, please. Next slide. All right, here we go. So it says my internet is unstable. Apologies in advance if there is a delay on my end. So the real estate component of our work at the Hill CDC is focused on our place keeping work. We've been focusing a lot of our effort right now on the Center Avenue of the Hill District, but we also work throughout the Hill District on different initiatives like homeownership and commercial real estate development. A great example of this is our New Granada Square Apartments, which opened last September. It's a 40-unit building right on Center Avenue, and it is all affordable units. Our economic development programs are more focused on the people of the Hill District, where we're connecting both new businesses and old businesses. We're fostering a greater sense of entrepreneurship in the neighborhood. We give mentorship and small business development hours at our office. We partner with different universities to help any organization that's interested in working in our neighborhood. We do a lot of home ownership prep. We have a Operation Home workshop coming up soon. And we also do a lot of work focusing on the arts and the cultural in the Hill District. That can be seen primarily through our Nafasi Art Market, but we also have all kinds of different programs. And like I said, mentioning earlier, our affordable housing units on Center Avenue do have a preference for artists. So we really do look at the arts as both a cultural and economic driver. And so then the last bucket of work is policy and planning. That's where most of my work is. We always say that this is where we get into trouble, but it is good trouble because we're advocating to different government partners as well as different business leaders to promote equitable development in the neighborhood. And that's a really important part of our mission, is that we want to preserve and promote the Hill District. And so that goes into a lot of our work in neighborhood planning. I work with OSE very carefully on the updating of the Greater Hill District Master Plan. Just one example of different plans that the neighborhood has come together to create. And we're trying to get that adopted to the city this year. Next slide, please. So one component of the policy and planning work that I do is running our development review panel. The development review panel is the Hill District's unified community review process. It is a process, which I'll get into a little bit, but these organizations that you see here are members of the development review panel. They each have appointments to the DRP, and those appointments to the DRP are Hill District residents. And so it's important to note that the Hill CDC does not involve itself in the voting and the results of the DRP. We are merely facilitators of this process. On the next slide, we'll go a little bit more into detail. So the DRP has been around for over a decade, and it's been successful primarily because it is a partnership of multiple organizations. It's not just one org, it's not just one staff member. And it was a model that was designed after negotiations with different neighborhood-based organizations in the Hill District. And it streamlines community review on behalf of the Hill District community when it comes to planning and development. I mentioned earlier it's a two-step process. I think on the next slide, if we could go there, it should break it down a little bit more. So we reviewed over 50 projects at the DRP. We actually have a new member of the DRP as well, and that is the Center for Fans. We're always looking for new organizations want to partner with us and be involved in the direction of development here. An example of new team members, as you could say, but we're really excited to welcome the Center for Family Excellence. Next slide, please. The two steps of this process include a focused panel review as well as a community review. And this is the website for the Hill District DRP. You can see all of the projects. As I mentioned, there's over 50, there's technically now over 60 projects that have under our review. You can see which project have finished the project, like Miss Lakeisha's project, and you can see projects that have abandoned or declined to continue in the process. Next slide, please. So I've been mentioning, it is a two-step process. The first is the panel review. So all of those organizations that are on the DRP, they're reviewed by the panel. It is then goes to the community for a wider scoring by all residents of the neighborhood once it has sufficient alignment with the Greater Hill District Master Plan. And so that requires a score of 80% or above. We do have a high threshold for this process because when it comes to community review, we don't want projects that haven't really seen themselves aligned with the master plan go before the residents. So that means that a project has to pass the panel first before it goes to the wider community for review. And a cumulative score is then determined based on the panel score and the resident score. And when we combine those two scores together, if it is 80%, then the Hill CDC as a registered community organization will issue a letter of support to the developer. Now, it's really this process. If a project does not reach the 80% threshold, that does not mean that the process is over, the project failed, and they will never see this project happen in the Hill District. It rather a pause so that we can regroup with the developer and see if there are ways that we can merge the plan with the Greater Hill District Master Plan. And sometimes it just requires a few tweaks here and there, but that process, developers not see it as we're a barrier to development. In fact, we see the DRP as a bridge to equitable development in the Hill District. And there's been numerous examples of projects that have even gotten better after their engagement with the DRP. And so we're really proud of this process, and we think that it is a example for all neighborhoods in the city. And like I said, if a developer chooses to abandon the DR drafted, and you can see those projects under declined on our website. So I think the next slide talks a little bit about this project, Lakeisha's project. Let's see the next slide, please. I hope my internet hasn't been crazy. So yes, as of today's Dan, the Communion LLC project has not finished the DRP. On February, we hosted Lakeisha at our April development review panel meeting. That panel gave a preliminary score of 86%. And now the project enters the second phase of the process. Like I mentioned, they'll be presenting at a community meeting, which is upcoming. We're still planning that. We haven't finalized a date. We do have a community meeting scheduled for June 6th that involves previous projects which have presented at the bridge renovation and the parking lot rehab over on Duquesne's campus, as well as the Hill District Dance Academy Theater, the Morgan Lee Arts Center. Those projects are presenting on June 6th. So anyone who's watching this video, you can please come to our website and register for that event. And like I said, we are not going to be issuing a letter of support, but we are encouraged that Lakeisha's project has passed the first step on their first presentation. So that means that this 86% represents sufficient alignment with the Greater Hill District Master Plan. And so we look forward to hosting them.
I'm not sure where, Dylan, if you're still on, but if
Yep.
at this point, we look forward to hosting their vote at the next community meeting. Next slide, please.
Did I go out?
Okay, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So yes, this is where you can see the project itself. It's hilldistrict.org/P proposals here and wow. Our upcoming meeting on June 6th is not for this project. It is for other projects that you can find our social media, so you can keep up with the progress of this development and others. Are we on the last slide? It's still showing the previous for me. Here we go. Okay, apologies again, everyone, for my crappy file. So this is where you can join us on social media at My Hill District. We're also very active on LinkedIn.
And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter at My Hill District. Please continue to follow us on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/company/hill-community-development corporation. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan and Diane. So at this time, we are actually going to have Lakeisha share her screen and her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you all. I will jump in and share my screen as well. One moment. Alrighty. Just want to confirm that everyone can hear me before I start.
Yes, I can
Okay.
hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for sharing more about the RCO organizations. I am familiar with them, but it was great to kind of hear a little bit more about the process. And I am looking forward to further engagement. Again, I'm also thankful for the opportunity just to share more about this project with you all. I know I just went through the DRP process and I've had many conversations in the past, but I just wanted to share more. And I know we have a specific time slot, so I'll just dive right in. I always lead with this quote that's on the screen by Elizabeth Catlett, who is an Afro-Latina artist. She's no longer with us, but this was a quote that she had shared that has resonated with me and really speaks volumes about this project and kind of what is motivating this project forward. She really speaks about art and how it should be liberating. And I look at the work that we're doing in the Hill District and the work that's happening at Heron and Wiley as an opportunity for our own community's liberation. So I always like to lead with that as a kind of a way to share more about the mission of the project and what's motivating us forward. Okay. All right, and again, I thank you all for having me here and allowing me to share more about this project today. And I have a number of things that I'd like to share, and I believe at the end of the presentation, we'll have an opportunity for Q&A and I guess other discussion. So I'll try to go through the project as clear as possible, and we can always circle back to any particular items, I guess, during the Q&A. But I just wanted to provide as much information about the project as possible. With that being said, this is just a brief overview of the project. As mentioned in the previous discussions, the Heron and Wiley project is a mixed-use development that it comprises of neighborhood scale retail and a mix of affordable workforce and market rate housing. The project, and I'll go in more detail momentarily, is actually broken into 2 phases, but I just wanted to start by providing the overall context. In addition to that, the project comprises, as mentioned, both commercial as well as residential components, including a little over 2,400 square feet of retail space, in which will be broken into 2 tenant spaces, both within phase 1 and then later in phase 2. The residential component includes affordable housing with affordability at or below 80% AMI and as low as 30% AMI. With support services by WAVE, and I'll go more in depth about that a little bit later in the presentation. The photographs at the bottom of the screen provide some existing context to the site. Let me turn on my laser pointer for context. So as I mentioned, the photographs at the bottom of the screen is just the existing conditions. The site is at Heron and Wiley, and I'll provide a little bit more context, of course. And then the images at the top of the screen are just some renderings to kind of give us a sense of what's being proposed. Before I go into the specifics around the project, just providing some context around the site. As I mentioned, the project is located in the Hill District, of course, along Heron, at the corner of Heron Avenue and Wiley Avenue, where that triangular building sits at that corner that many people are very familiar with. So I always like to use that to anchor us in the site. I also just wanted to acknowledge some of the surrounding context. We are within literally a few minutes walk to both the 82 bus on Center and the 83 bus on Milwaukee, providing public transportation opportunities to both the commercial patrons as well as the future residents. There are some other developments happening in and around the Hill District that I like to highlight as well, because it does help paint the full picture of what's happening in the Hill District and how this project is also contributing to the overall development, including the addition at the Kaufman Center, Salim's Marketplace, which is now housed at the former Shop and Save Plaza, if you will. New Granada Square, Dylan just spoke about that development, and in the Lower Hill, the F&B Financial Center that is going up. And then obviously with this site, we're just a short distance from the University of Pittsburgh, the Scripps District, in downtown, as we're familiar. So diving back into some of the more specifics of the site, as mentioned earlier, we're located at the corner of Heron Avenue and Wiley Avenue, comprising of this existing building and these parcels or these lots directly to the rear of that building. And in this slide, really just highlighting the existing conditions and the need for investment at this site. As we can see from some of the images, you know, the sidewalks and stairs have deteriorated to some degree. The existing structure, there's some dilapidation, and the buildings in need of some renovation and rehab work. Those lots have been overgrown and can use some improvement, of course. And with that being said, the project is proposing to, you know, renovate that existing structure, highlight this and celebrate this corner. It's such a prominent corner as you're coming up and down Heron Avenue. It's always an opportunity for us to celebrate our community. There's opportunities for planters and landscaping along both Heron Avenue and Wiley Avenue. And of course, there's always a good opportunity to infill and connect to the existing context. And again, I'll go more in depth about some of these items or aspects of the project that I'm calling out here. So going into more specifics, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to just provide some high-level context of the overall project. However, for construction purposes and permitting purposes, we're phasing the project. We do look at this as one contiguous development, but again, for permitting and city requirements, we are phasing it for construction purposes. With that being said, we're focusing the first phase on the new construction infill on those vacant lots, with construction to start later in the year, and then followed closely by the renovation of the existing structure to start next year. As mentioned, the infill development will be part of phase one. That is the new construction of this 4-story building that has roughly a little over 1,300 square feet of retail that fronts Heron Avenue. And again, just to further emphasize, phase two is the renovation of the existing 3-story building with about a little over 1,000 square feet of retail, both fronting Heron Avenue. If you all recall in some of the previous slides, a few slides earlier, where I was showing you all Heron Avenue, Wiley Avenue at this site, I'll just slide back a few slides momentarily for context purposes. So you can kind of see here, this is Heron Avenue, the retail is kind of at the base. And when you come around to Wiley Avenue, you're actually going uphill to essentially what is the second floor. I just wanted to share that for context purposes. With that being said, just to highlight the first phase again, which is the new construction. And again, you're only seeing the top 3 levels because of the grade change between Heron Avenue and Wiley Avenue, which actually is a great opportunity for the project because it allows us to have a ground floor for the commercial space and a ground floor for the residential space, providing full accessibility to both the commercial and the residential. So that's actually, we welcome the hills and the changes and just the natural landscape. It creates an opportunity for us to create the greatest amount of accessibility as possible. Within that first phase, we're also introducing 6 total 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, 2 apartments per level, again, with construction anticipated to start later this year. And again, just for clarity and context purposes, phase 2 will focus on the renovation project of the existing structure with 2 additional apartments coming online as well. With all of those, with those aspects of the project, I just wanted to provide a little bit more context about the actual use of the space. for the ground floor commercial retail space. As mentioned in the first phase, we're looking at a little over 1,300 square feet of street level retail space with storefronts and commercial kitchens that will be available for lease starting in the fall of 2025. We will work with our community to make sure this information gets out so that interested businesses in our community know about this information. It's a little early in the process, but I wanted to share some context about what we're anticipating for this retail space. And just some things to highlight, you know, obviously located on Heron Avenue, easy access to both Bigelow Boulevard to the north and Center Avenue to the south. You know, Heron Avenue, daily traffic counts are roughly around 6,000 vehicles per day. That's essential when you're talking about retail establishments. I just wanted to highlight some of those things. Again, as I mentioned earlier, literally within a 2-minute walk to both the 82 and the 83 bus, again, ensuring that there's alternative transportation so that all individuals can access the site. And we're adjacent to the historic Upper Hill community. And as I mentioned, this project is being phased, so we have the opportunity to expand the retail up to another 1,000 square feet within the phase 2, which will create an opportunity for us to either expand the opportunity for the initial retailer or engage a second tenant in the full development. Either way, it creates greater opportunities for our community to invite commercial activity. As it pertains to the apartments, again, the apartments, you enter the retail from Heron Avenue, the apartments you access from Wiley Avenue. It's great because the development is one kind of contiguous space, but there is a slight separation between the retail and the residential, which creates a little bit more privacy for the residents, which I think is something that will be welcomed. And again, for the first phase, the apartments will introduce 6 1- and 2-bedroom apartments with views of both Wiley Avenue and Heron Avenue, based on the construction period, which I'll get into a little bit later in the presentation. These will be for rent starting fall 2025. Again, all of these units will be affordable at or below 80% AMI and as low as 30% AMI, with rents as low as $577 for the 1-bedrooms. And just some of the key amenities I would say that just wanted to highlight includes trying to create open spaces and connections to the exterior, so porches and terraces that you can see from the images on the right. As I mentioned, this will be a ground floor entrance, so we are able to provide ADA accessible entrances and units, which is a great opportunity for the project. There will be bike storage available. The project includes infrastructure improvements to the sidewalks, landscaping and street trees. As mentioned earlier, access to the bus lines. Again, just trying to make sure we have as much opportunity for residents to gain access to the site from different modes of transportation. And in the second phase, as I mentioned, with the rehab of the existing structure, there will be an additional 2 units available as well. And obviously more information will come a little once we get closer to construction about leasing and such. Given the scope and the parameters of the project, we've been able to put together a qualified team of professionals that include both minority and women-owned businesses with their expertise in affordable housing, publicly funded projects, tax credits, community development efforts, etc. This includes myself, Lakeisha. I introduced myself earlier. My name is Lakeisha Bird. I am the developer and owner and developer for Communion LLC, and I'm leading this endeavor. I'm joined by GBN Architects, who actually is already working on other projects in the Hill District as well and have a working knowledge and relationship. To my knowledge, they're working with the Citizen Science Lab, Rhythm Square, Fifth and Dinwiddie, and maybe a few other projects as well. And then we're also joined by engineers, including Cosmos Technology, WBCMC, and Allen and Cherie. And then also earlier this year, we released a public RFQ to identify and engage a construction manager. And through that process, we identified and have begun working with Mystic Construction, who also has done work all across Pittsburgh and has had a considerable amount of work in the Hill District as well. And they're very familiar with the process. So that's our team. Mystic has, as I mentioned, we started working with Mystic rather recently, and they've been very helpful in helping us understand constructability. They're getting engaged early in the process to ensure that the project is feasible. And with all of those things in mind, we're looking to finance this project through a combination of resources, including both debt, equity, and grant subsidies. And we've been able to raise about $4 million to date through a number of funding partners. And I just wanted to highlight those funding partners. As I mentioned earlier, we're able to provide this mixed use development, which also includes a great affordable housing component with deep levels of affordability. And I have to give some credit to the funders who make these opportunities possible. We've been working with the URA, McCullough Ministries. We received a grant from PHFA as well as Federal Home Loan Bank. First National Bank is our primary lender, and also working in partnership with Neighborhood Allies. And again, just acknowledging their investment in this project and their ability to allow us to provide the deepest levels of affordability possible. So I just wanted to highlight that. Giving all of those aspects of the project and to date, as mentioned, we submitted to the DRP earlier this year, presented to the review panel last month, and received a preliminary score, a passing score. And obviously we're here today, and this is a requirement with the city as well. We're seeking to potentially go before the Zoning Board of Adjustments next month. That's to be determined. We're anticipating all final municipal approvals later in the summer, with construction to start in the fall. And due to our early engagement with Mystic, we're anticipating a 12-month construction period with construction completion of fall of 2025. Although community engagement is ongoing, I imagine it'll be ongoing all the way through construction as we even start to engage tenants. So that's a process that I think will continue even beyond lease up. We want to just continue to stay engaged with our community. But I did want to highlight some of the conversations and some of the things that we've done to date. As I mentioned earlier, I've had so many different conversations, one-on-one, small group conversations, as well as public forums. But I wanted to at least highlight the larger forums, including November 2020. We presented this project, followed by a Q&A when the URA hosted a Hill District quarterly meeting at that time. And we had an opportunity, it was a virtual session, and we had an opportunity to share more about this project and have an opportunity to have a discussion with the residents that attended that meeting at that time. In June of 2022, Councilman LaBelle's office hosted their District 6 Hill Community Meeting. I believe it was at the Kaufman Center. I was able to present in person, followed by a Q&A and just open forum and discussion with residents. And again, taking in all of that feedback and channeling it into the project. And then most recently, like we just discussed, we submitted to the DRP earlier this year, followed by a presentation and receiving a preliminary passing score. And again, I acknowledge that all of the engagement is ongoing hereafter. So given all of the parameters and aspects of the project, I also just wanted to highlight kind of the goals and objectives of the project, specifically around aligning and adhering to the Greater Hill District Master Plan, specifically the development goals and non-displacement strategies that are outlined within the master plan. They're very, they provide recommendations and proposals for how projects can align with the greater thoughts of the community. What's highlighted with I guess here in black, if you will, with a black backdrop, is what's actually called out in the master plan. And over the next few slides, I'll be just highlighting how the project is in alignment with those specific development goals and or non-displacement strategies, starting with the master plan recommending and proposing neighborhood-driven civic design. And each of these call outs are just highlighting how the project aligns with those recommendations, including providing views of the corridor, creating opportunities to anchor the project with ground level retail, developing projects with parking nearby. Again, this project, I don't know if it was mentioned earlier, but it's located in a local neighborhood commercial district, which promotes both residential and business uses. The master plan has emphasis on both housing as well as economic development opportunities, also highlighting opportunities for landscaping, trees, and planting along both Heron Avenue and Wiley Avenue. And then opportunities to benefit existing residents as well as create future growth opportunities. This is further highlighted with the phasing of the project. In phase 1, we're looking to create immediate opportunities for residents. And then with phase 2, as I mentioned earlier, the opportunity to expand on that retail space and then create some additional housing. Just continue to build on the recommendations and development goals within the master plan, including utilizing neighborhood strengths and assets. I think it was mentioned earlier that the master planning efforts are ongoing between the community and the city, one of which I've been involved in, including the Heron Avenue action planning. This project has been called out as one of the, like, I guess you can say capstone projects at that corner. Doing infill development, connecting to existing assets, as mentioned, between the phasing, working with and redeveloping existing structures, looking for opportunities to preserve and maintain those structures so that they don't have to be demolished or condemned. Elevating these corners as culturally significant spaces. Like I mentioned, the triangular building sits prominently at that corner and creating a greater opportunity to celebrate that corner. I also just wanted to highlight here, there will be opportunities for public art. We hope to be able to engage our local artist community within the Hill District. Obviously, that will come after the construction, but we are working with our design and engineers to ensure that we're planning for that, so that when we do engage with artists, we have the proper installation, in place for that engagement. That'll happen a little bit later down the line, but the idea would be that we could do a call for artists and have like a public opportunity within the Hill District to invite this opportunity. Again, as I mentioned, I am the owner of Community LLC, and I just wanted to highlight that I actually established this business in 2015 in the Hill District. I've been going strong for 9 years, initially supporting other developers, both nonprofit and for-profit businesses, and just supporting work all across the city, but primarily in the Hill District. And I'm thankful, here I am 9 years later, to be able to lead this endeavor as well. Just trying to keep my eye on the time as well. I just have a few more slides. With that being said, the master plan also seeks to promote a green and healthy environment. That includes also creating like open spaces, opportunities to connect to the exterior. As you can see from this image, from the design, we're looking for opportunities to kind of create open spaces, whether it be through balconies or like verandas where you can see the retail space, preserving the existing bay window from the existing structure. And then I mentioned in the previous slides, really celebrating this civic corner. So we're looking for opportunities where we can create greater visibility, where we can create greater daylighting, create greater ventilation with more openings, and things of that nature. In addition to some of those development goals, some other goals that were called out in the master plan included economic opportunities, including workforce and NWBE participation. I first want to just highlight the wealth of opportunity that's available on this project alone, including engaging individuals and NWBEs at every stage of this process, including those looking for contracting opportunities, whether it be on the professional services side and all the way through construction, individuals seeking direct construction employment. There are opportunities post-construction as well through the retail space and the lease and creating leasable opportunities, and then as well as operational contracts, like for example, property management and so forth. So again, I just wanted to highlight the opportunities that are available on this project at every stage of the development, from pre-construction all the way through post-construction. To further expound on that, that includes focusing on first source hiring so that we can increase the participation of local participation within the Hill District, whether it be through subcontractors, suppliers, or workers. I just wanted to highlight that we're anticipating the creation of 32 temporary construction jobs amongst the various trades that we're already starting to identify for this project, just within phase 1 alone, as well as 5 permanent operational jobs, including building maintenance, as well as the retail space, the operation of the retail space. And certain workforce strategies that will be employed, as mentioned earlier, we're engaging with Mystic Construction in the URA. Mystic Construction has a full-time workforce coordinator, and we intend to leverage their resources to help our project in this community to get 1 in 4 Hill District hires. And with that being said, we're also looking to partner with the Lower Hills First Source Center. This is some of the information they've already shared with us to give us a sense of some of the resources that they can make available. So we're going to definitely look forward to partnering with them and leveraging their resources so that we can reach as many MWBE and local individuals as possible. This also extends to enhance MWBE commitments, including, the master plan calls for up to 30% participation for MBEs and 15% for WBEs. And here we're just highlighting some of the participation at the pre-construction level thus far, including working with some of our engineers, as well as some of our development support agencies, including myself, again, operating Community LLC. This coupled with our partnership with Mystic Construction, who has seen increased MWBE utilization rates on some of their recent projects of similar scale and scope. So we're working with them closely to kind of ensure that we can meet these commitments. And again, in identifying them as our construction partner, one of the things that led that conversation was their increased MWBE utilization rates on recent projects. That was very encouraging. Some of the last goals that were outlined in the master plan included no displacement. I just wanted to acknowledge that for the total development, whether it be phase 1, we're talking about new construction, so there's no displacement of residents, and phase 2 will be the renovation of the existing structure, which is a non-occupied vacant structure. So again, no displacement whatsoever of any residents. And preserving affordability, because this is a new construction and an unoccupied building, it's more about promoting affordability. And we're trying to use every opportunity to promote affordability at various levels. As I mentioned earlier, majority of our units will be at 80% AMI or below, and as low as 30% AMI, as you can see here on the screen. I mentioned this earlier, but just kind of creating equity, working with existing organizations. As I mentioned, I established Communion 9 years ago in the Hill District, and I've done work all across the city but majority of the work has been based in the Hill District. And I'm just happy that I can continue to do this work through this project as well. And last but not least, just highlighting, I mentioned it earlier in the presentation, we're trying to create economic empowerment with our residents, specifically through providing support services with our collaboration with WAVE, which is a PHFA and HUD approved housing counseling agency who serves low to moderate income families. Their focus is on creating housing and economic stability for individuals and families. And so it's not enough just to provide the housing, you have to provide the services to support economic growth and opportunity as well. And last but not least, this is just a snapshot of the phase one. As I mentioned, this is a total project, but for permitting purposes, our first with the city, we're submitting for phase one for the first set of permits, if you will. And that includes 6 one and 2 bedroom apartments with roughly a little over 1,300 square feet of leasable retail space. We anticipate from our engagement with Mystic as well as the pre-construction team being able to achieve 30% MBE participation and 15% WBE participation with job creation at 32 construction jobs generated just for phase one alone. With that being said, I thank you all for allowing me to share more about this project, and I believe we do have opportunity for Q&A. But again, thank you all.
Thank you, Lakeisha. And there are currently no questions in the Q&A tool. So does anyone have any questions? You can raise your hand. Okay.
I was just gonna say, I do not have any questions at this time, but Lakeisha's very interesting project. I know that we did receive some additional information from you, and we look forward to meeting with you separately. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany. Kent Bay did have a question.
Yes, Kent Bay here. Morris American, Hill District resident, property owner, Project Love Coalition organization. Currently engaged in a building development project. I must have missed something here. I didn't see a site plan in this whole presentation. There was some confusion with the meeting links that was sent to me, so I may have missed that in the attempt to getting onto this meeting. Is there a site plan?
Yes, there is a site plan. We're in the process of working with zoning and the ZDR, so I can make that available. It's not included, like the one you submit to the actual city is not included in this presentation. I think I just provide more of a conceptual, but that is something we can make available. I can follow up with the staff here, and we can figure out how to, share that publicly.
Is there a concept of that available? Or was there a concept in this presentation?
Let's see. I don't think I had one of the site plan. I kind of focused on the kind of the street elevations, unfortunately, but we do definitely have a site plan that we can definitely share with you all, and can follow up with any questions that come from that. Because we submitted a site plan to the city, which is under review as well. Yeah, so that's not really a site plan. That was just more of a site layout, if you will. But we do have an actual site plan. But just to provide some context, we do have I'm just trying to see if I could pull up the laser pointer. I'll coordinate with the DAM staff, if you will, and I can make the site plan available, not a problem. When you do receive it, it'll highlight specifically phase one, and you'll see the existing structure as well. There's some work being done on Heron Avenue to provide accessibility to the new building. It's all within the property lines. It's not within the right of way. And then on Wiley Avenue at the top of the screen, again, we are providing accessibility to the building. But I think the closest I can kind of give you a sense is, but again, I will try to make that available to you all. But hopefully this can give you some context of what's happening at the street level on Heron Avenue and then on Wiley Avenue.
Yes. Where is this 30 spaces of nearby parking? Where's that happening?
It's along both Heron Avenue and Wiley Avenue. Unfortunately, because of the site and how it's made, so parking isn't required for the commercial, where it's too small of a space to require parking by city requirements. And then for the residential, because of the change in grade, it's technically infeasible to provide parking on the actual lot. So we were looking at what are some other strategies, and we were looking at the available street parking. And then, as you are familiar from the images that I had shared in the general vicinity, there's not much in the immediate adjacent lots. So we're maximizing as much street parking as possible for both the commercial and the residential.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And where's all this sanitation going to be accumulated at for this?
We're going to tap in from Heron Avenue. All of the tap-ins will come through Heron Avenue.
What do you mean by tapping?
Oh, like all of the utility taps, the sewer, the sanitary, all of the lines into the building. They exist on Heron Avenue at present, so we'll tap into the ones that exist. We're going through the process with PWSA, which is also a requirement for zoning approval. All of those existing utilities and such are on Heron Avenue, and we'll tap into those from Heron Avenue.
Yeah, understood. That's not what I was referring to. I'm talking about the garbage accumulation.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry about that. If you can still see the image on the screen, here on the bottom left is where there's a curb cut, and there'll be a garbage here for the commercial, and then for the residential, we'll just go forward. It's probably can't see this clearly, but there's a little to the right of the door, step back a little bit, there's an area for trash as well here. So the commercial and residential have two separate opportunities to collect recyclable and waste, if you will. And those are the locations.
Yeah,
And
it seems to
I
be
just want to, I was just going to highlight one thing just to clarify with the residential. You can also there will be a door that you can access so that you don't have to come out and walk around. And there is a secondary door as well on the side of the building to access the trash as well.
It seems like that's going to pose a problem. That's a lot of garbage accumulation right there.
Well, it's based on the number. So it's based on requirements. So it's based on the number of occupancy. So it's like, because of your occupancy, you have to provide a certain amount. So we're providing trash bins based on the number of occupancy.
Sure. But why does it have to be on? Yes, I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But why does it have to be on the side where we have our residential units?
It's a vacant lot directly next to me. There's no residential units right there.
You just showed the design of what this structure is supposed to consist of, and it's, from what we can all clearly see, it's going to be exactly right, shoulder to shoulder, to our residential building.
I just want to make sure I'm following. When you say your residential building, are you referring to like this mass here? If you can see the screen.
Along Heron Avenue, where you have the bulk of your trash going to be accumulated?
Right here. You're talking about Heron Avenue. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the residential. Actually, this is, it is to the left, of the site, if you will, but it's still tucked into the actual building. Let me see if I have a. So the curb cut will come here and it will be stored inside so that it kind of be, it won't just be out and about. We're trying to try to create as much, you know, containment as possible. If you're referring to
Yeah.
the commercial waste. Mhm.
Sure, for aesthetic purposes, I get that, but it's still garbage. It still smells.
Mhm.
And we still have to deal with that. That's a lot of accumulation right there. You have a restaurant that's going to be accumulating garbage and residents that's going to be accumulating garbage, all putting it in one spot that is directly shoulder to shoulder to our residential units.
I mean, what I'll do is I'll circle back with my design and engineering team to look at what other opportunities are available, but through just looking at the site and what the requirements are to kind of where you can put the trash and so forth. We also have to provide, you know, a curb cut so that the city or the waste management company can access it. And we did look to have it further up, but that would impede providing accessibility to the building, because we would have to put it, obviously, you know, along Heron Avenue, and the existing building already is there. So we looked at where in this very narrow lot it could go. It's a requirement. We definitely have to provide it, unfortunately, but we looked at, you know, along that corridor where in this narrow lot it can go, without, you know, the accessibility to the building being cut off either.
I get all that, but it's still the accumulation of garbage centralized in one area where we have to place our garbage bins and then your garbage bins there. No one had that conversation, to just a little discussion as to how that would look moving forward.
Oh, definitely. I'm working with my design team thoroughly on like just the full use of the site. And yeah, these are all definitely questions that have come up and are continuing to work through as we're going through the zoning process. And I can just obviously, you know, continue to discuss it with my team. But again, I'm just highlighting the narrowness of the site compounded with the requirements of the city. You know, it is a requirement of the city, and because of the site, it's not, you know, and it's not many options. That's also why we separated the commercial from the residential, so it's not all bulk.
Yeah, I get all that, but it's nonetheless, it's still going to be an issue. And I'd like to see the remedy for that at some point in time. I don't know how something like this can move forward. There's not been any discussion. This is the most of a conversation that I've ever had with you in the years that I've ever known you. I've reached out to you for help many times, long time ago. I never got any type of support from you in anything that I've ever wanted to do. And this is the best conversation and the longest conversation that I've ever had with you about any development in this process. And it seems that our paths are crossing again.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I remember you reaching out to me in the past regarding architectural work. I'm primarily focusing on development these days. But I do recall we've had some discussion in the past regarding architecture. But I'll definitely, I've definitely taken note of the concern you have around that, and I definitely will revisit it as we continue to move forward with like the zoning process and this being a requirement of the city, and seeing, you know, how we can resolve that.
Yeah, we also have architectural value there. And it seems like this design, it's literally shoulder to shoulder to our property line. And that's going to pose a problem. How tall is this building?
The building is, I believe, 50, 53 feet from Heron Avenue.
Height and height.
Yes. Mhm.
Doesn't that exceed the zoning requirements?
Well, one of the things
Yeah,
that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just saying that because I wanted to go high on our development project and that was strongly discouraged.
I can't speak to your project, unfortunately, but what I can say
Sure.
is to your point, in the LNC zone, it does presently call for 3 stories. However, through active community discussion, specifically around updating and codifying the Greater Hill District Master Plan, the Heron Avenue action planning process that I've been engaged with the community and the city, we're calling for greater density in LNC zones. And that's why we are adding an additional level with the new construction. It comes directly as a result of that recommendation for greater density at these sites in the LNC zones. So it's actually in alignment with what both the community and the city is advocating for.
Sure, greater density. I'm all for greater density. I think we need more things in our Hill District neighborhood. However, I think it's just kind of strange that you're literally shoulder to shoulder, like there's no room. Like you
Well,
just
just so you
came
know,
into-
this isn't the site plan, this is more like a diagrammatical, so it's not a complete representation because there are lot coverage requirements. You can't be shoulder to shoulder with neighboring properties. So this is more diagrammatic, and like I mentioned, I'll be more than happy to share the site plan. But the city does have requirements about lot coverage so that you can avoid what you're referring to. But unfortunately, this
Okay,
is just more diagrammatical, just to kind of differentiate between the phases.
Sure. There's a lot of open spaces and a lot of places that need development. Why all of a sudden that Project Love Coalition is embarking on this development project and then this pops out of the clear blue? I've been working with the Hill CDC for a while and it's just been turtle steps with them. And to your support, their actions have been very supportive of what you're doing, but their actions have not been supportive of what we're doing. So
unfortunately, I can't speak to other projects. I don't want to speak out of turn. What I will say, though, is I've been working on this project for a number of years, and I've had so many conversations with a lot of different individuals about this project. I know I might not have spoken with you directly, but like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, I've had the opportunity to share this both publicly, one-on-ones. We've been having this obviously development is not fast by any means. It's a slow and steady process, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware that I've been working on this project since 2017. It's been a long, slow process, and I'm not discouraged by any means, but I'm just being honest about the length of time it takes just to even get to this point.
yeah, absolutely.
And
Surely
I don't know
you know
what stage your
I know.
project is. I don't know what stage your project is, and that might be something we can have an offline conversation about. I just don't know enough about it, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but it might be worth us having a more deep conversation about what you're doing and adjacent as well. I'll be happy to have that conversation. I just don't know enough about it to be able to speak in depth, unfortunately.
Yeah, because when I was starting my project, which was way before yours, I couldn't get any type of conversation with you.
Yeah, I was, depending on when you were talking about, like I said, I've been, mainly focused. I remember our earlier conversations, it was primarily focused around architecture, but unfortunately I've been focusing more on development. And like I said, just trying to focus on this project. I don't, we're more so talking about the Hearn and Wiley project, but I've not really done too much work on the architecture side these days.
Understood. It seems you have all the support of the people that refuse to support me. That seems a bit strange.
So this is Diane Day from the Hill CDC, and Mr. Kent, if you would like to talk to us again in greater detail about your project, you are more than welcome to reach out to us or to me, and we can set up another meeting to kind of support you even further than what we already have. As she mentioned, different developers come to us in different stages. And depending on what stage they're in, will determine how fast they go through the DRP. But I'll be more than happy to review your project again with you and again provide you any recommendations to help you move forward with your project.
That would be wonderful, Miss Diane Day. I would truly appreciate that, but that's what I've been trying to accomplish with you and the others at the Hill CDC for quite some time now, and we're not really getting anywhere.
And Mr.
Mr.
Bay, this is, oh, sorry, Diane,
No, I was getting ready to say, I believe we met with you so far twice since I've been in office. I don't know about any other time since I've been in office. And so, again, I'll be more than willing to review your project with you again, sit down with you and make any recommendations that we think will help you to move forward. Whenever you're ready, you can contact me directly at the Hill CDC, and then we can go ahead and schedule that meeting.
yeah,
I'm
Mr. Bay,
always
this is,
ready.
this is Brett
I'm-
Collins with the Hill District Consensus Group and also representing the collaborative. And again, I am new to the role as the RCO coordinator for the Hill District Consensus Group. I'm not familiar if you have already submitted information to the collaborative and the consensus group. Have you?
When did you join the consensus group?
Officially in this role, it would have been in, I would say, the last few months or like the last 2 months. I've been consulting with them on other projects, but not in the role of the RCO. But have you communicated or reached out previously?
Longer before you even existed at the Hill District
Okay.
Consensus.
Well, again, I think Lakeisha made a really good point. Development, can take a while, and obviously, there are a lot of changing hands that are a part of the process. I want to extend an invite to please forward any information. I know the collaborative is newly formed, so I'm not sure if you also had a chance to reach out to them as well. I know the consensus group has been around for 30 plus years. And have recently, registered as RCO as well. So again, I do apologize if for any reason there was any gap in communication with you in the past, but going forward, please feel free to reach out to both the collaborative and the consensus group. You are able to come on our website. My direct email to the consensus group is development@hdcg.org. So again, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, but most importantly, going to hdcg.org and going to our development page, you're able to then find our email address. But I'll also throw it in the chat. And also I'll give you the email contact for the collaborative as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of serious concerns here. Communication is certainly key, but none of that communication has been extended to Project Love Coalition and our team and the efforts that we've undertaken for what we're attempting to do in my own neighborhood. I can't get anything done. That's just insane.
Okay, Mr. Bay, I think Lakeisha is going to provide the site plan. Lakeisha, are you potentially going to, well, you're going to reach out to him personally, so I think that'll be taken care of. And Diane and Brittany are going to provide additional information, so hopefully your concerns will be taken care of, Mr. Bay.
Well, I don't want hope. I want a development project completed. It should have been completed a long time ago.
Pardon my language, Mr. Bay, but you'll have some information.
Well, that's all I've been getting is information. I've been getting a lot of distractions. That's it. It's information, but it's just distractions. It's not helpful at all. No one is giving me the support that I need to do my project in a normal fashion that any other project is getting done. It's wonderful to hear all the the verbal acknowledgements, but I needed all of that a long time ago. And even with the long time ago verbiage, nothing still was forthcoming. So I'm not quite sure what's going to be forthcoming with the things that you're telling me now. We have some
Understood.
serious, we have some serious architectural value concerns there in this project. And this project that's on the table now is in serious interference with that. And certainly there's sanitation concerns. That's just, you're just going to literally stand shoulder to shoulder with somebody and all this room is out here? There's plenty of space to develop. Why do you got to crowd it all in one space? It's just weird. It's like somebody on an empty bus just getting on the bus and sitting next to you, and you're the only two people on the bus. It's just weird. You're
Mr. Bay, I
literally
think that,
shoulder,
hi, this
you're
is Britt
literally
again.
shoulder to shoulder on the property line. This is just, it doesn't make
So,
sense at all.
Mr. Bay, I know that, and it was a little long-winded at the beginning of the presentation, but I think each organization outlined their format and present an opportunity for public comment and how to engage and get that feedback so they can get in the hands of DCP. And so I think it's well noted on this call, but also and completely acknowledge and hear your frustration, but in interest of making sure that there's a way forward. I think following, those processes outlined, again, the extended olive branch should say like, hey, can't account for what may have happened in the past, but, to again, reignite or to acknowledge or to affirm your concerns. I think, reaching out to the different contacts and following the process, because again, as outlined, even from OSE down to every organization represented, there is a 30-day period for public comment. And I think it is well noted your position, but I think, it may be best suited to, follow the due process and extend that commentary directly in written comment form to the parties listed and just kind of follow that process so that it can actually be addressed in a proper form.
What due process? I've never even heard of a due process.
I'm not sure if OSE shares the PowerPoint at large, but where it explains that, there's a 30-day period for public comment. And also, with the Hill CDC's process, and again, in reaching out to the collaborative and the consensus group, the opportunity to share your written feedback, whether it is by email or if you wanted to set up a separate individual call to, really discuss your concerns at length. And it also sounds like Lakeisha extended herself to meet with you, separately outside of this forum. But I think what you may be looking to convey, maybe the approach could be done in a different channel where it would be appropriate and there would be opportunity to really hone in on some of the concerns that you presented and make sure that that feedback is well documented, noted, and can be addressed. So I think the due process might be even just starting with the simple, reaching out or just, making sure that you have written comment that is made available to the organizations and even to DCP.
Yeah.
And that's correct. I can provide you the information for the Zoning Board of Adjustment if you would like to reach out to them, just so that you're aware of that.
Yeah, I guess it would be helpful. I don't understand this process at all. I don't understand this registered community organization, this whole legislation, and this why we got to go through this DRP. I don't understand any of it. It's not welcoming. It's not friendly. It's not helpful. It hasn't been really helpful to us. Project Love Coalition. I've been met with a lot of pushback. It's not really helpful. I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to be.
Sure, and I'm sorry, I guess you were having issues, like you said, joining the call. So I was unable to provide you
Yeah,
with
I
that
got two different
information.
links. I got two different links for this meeting.
Okay, I can also share the presentation with you as well. I'll provide my email address, because I don't think you can provide your email in the chat. So I'll provide my email address so that you can email me, and then I can provide you with the presentation. And then if you have any additional questions as well, you can just, you can have that information. I'm always available to you. I serve as your neighborhood planner, Mr. Bay. And it'll provide you my cell phone number as well. You can text me, you can call me, and I'm readily available as well. Readily accessible to you.
Well, I appreciate your professionalism and kind words, but I've been at this for far too long and not really gaining any traction here with the things that we're doing. And I know the process well enough to be able to get some traction, but that has not been the case.
Okay, well, I apologize for that, sir. But I will still
Well,
provide you that information.
Yes, I'll take it and share it with the group and with the team, but I don't know. This doesn't seem to be in every turn. There's a lot of blocking. Everything that I request from the city, the local government, has been denied. All these local organizations that claim to provide resources have been denying me for no reason other than that they can. And yet these are the same organizations and the same governmental entity that's in full support of this project that's being discussed today, and as well as many others. It's not just this one. I think that's highly suspicious. It draws way too much attention.
Well, I've never been introduced to your project, so again, we can attempt to discuss it. So that's
it's only been on the it's only been on the Hill CDC website for how many years? A long time. And then with the recent update that we had, the recent update that we had to do, we started that at the end of last year. We're doing everything that we're being told. We're doing everything that we're being told to do and still getting nowhere. And then when we ask what are the next steps from the Hill CDC, we're not getting any type of follow-up.
Okay, we'll have to.
So this is Diane Day. This is Diane Day with the Hill CDC. And Mr. Bay, if you have done something beyond the last recommendations that we gave you, and if you're ready to talk to us about those recommendations, then we don't know that you're ready at this point. So if there's been work done and you're ready to present,
I'm confused about those recommendations. I requested from you a recap of those recommendations, and you refused to provide them to me.
So
you didn't provide me with those recommendations.
We will. This meeting is not to review your project. If you would like to do that again, then you can reach out to me. Again, my email is dday@hilldistrict.org. I'll put it in the chat, and we can schedule a meeting to review your project. This meeting, the DAM meeting, is not to review your project at this time, or to review what happened at the DRP meeting for your project. But I will be more than happy to go over our recommendations for your project. Now, one of the things I do recall at the DRP meeting is that we all, including all of the DRP members, encouraged you to come back once the recommendations were complete. because we felt that your project was something that the Hill District needed. So we are all in agreement that we want to work with you to see your project come to completion. But again, it's going to require that you reach out to us, that we schedule a meeting, especially if you need some, additional support with those recommendations. And then we will be more than happy to help you go through that process. But we need to return the DAM meeting to this project so that they can complete this meeting.
Sure, absolutely. Well, you already know I have your email address, and I've already written to you to request those recommendations, and you told me that you weren't going to provide me with those recommendations, nor a
No,
copy
sir.
of the meeting.
No, sir, I'm sorry you misunderstood that, but that's not what I explained. But I'll be more than happy to talk to you offline.
Very good, very well.
All right. Are there any additional questions at this time?
I just had a quick question about the market rate housing cost, the rent.
Yes, I'm still here. Sorry, I'm just taking it off of mute. The market rate housing most likely can be anywhere between 80 to 100% AMI. So it's going to be based on when we do the development for phase 2, we'll price it at that time. But I can assure you it will be somewhere between 80%, no more than 100% AMI. And it'll be only 2 of the total 8 units. The
Okay.
remaining 6, as I mentioned earlier, will be priced at full affordability, 80 or below.
So your building will be Section 8 eligible. It'll be eligible for Section 8.
We are not at this time partnered with to accept vouchers. That is
Okay.
something I am looking into, if you will. I think it will be a great opportunity. It's just at this time, the only thing that we have done is made the commitment to make sure that the rents don't go above. So even if you're not a part of the program, but your income still meets those low income thresholds, you still will be eligible to, rent one of the affordable. You don't have to be a part of that program. It's more at this juncture focused on making sure the rents don't go above 30% AMI, 50% AMI, and then 80% AMI. Yeah.
Okay. I just heard you say you were working with Wave, and I know they work with a lot of tenants that need that, to fill in the gaps and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah.
With the bill first don't displace, and a lot of tenants need that
Mhm.
social gapping or
Right.
sustainability around them keeping a roof over their head. So that's all. Thank you.
Mhm. And that's why, just to kind of reiterate, that's why we were focused first on the rent threshold, making sure we can reach the deepest levels of affordability without having to identify additional subsidies. So we know based on the grants and things that we've received thus far, we can provide this level of affordability. But we would be open to looking into some of those additional things just to make sure the project is sustainable long-term. But the good news that I'm happy about is that we know we can sustain with providing deep levels of affordability at the levels that we shared.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Renee Wilson.
Hello. Hi, I just have 2 questions. One is a suggestion. The project, you're saying that there's going to be no displacement, but there's no one in there, and you're building, so there's nothing to displace. You would take that out because this project, there's nobody that's going to be displaced. I also
Right.
have a question,
Mhm.
and that is about as you're building, you're not building a lot of apartments, but some. And I'm looking at why some of these apartments are not being built with 3 bedrooms instead of just 2. When we know, like, there's families on the hill that would need, 3 bedrooms is
Mhm.
really needed when we're talking about all the people that we think that's going to be displaced.
Right.
Thank you.
To kind of respond to the question, starting with the displacement, you're correct. This is a new construction project, and then the renovation is of a vacant, unoccupied building. But we were aligning with the master plan, and one of the things that the master plan calls out is, no displacement. So we just wanted to, it was more so just reiterating that this isn't an occupied building. So it was more so just trying to re-emphasize that this isn't an occupied building. This is new construction and renovation of a vacant property. That was our only intent. And then as it relates to the bedroom sizing, we actually did look at 3-bedroom room sizes and such. But it might be hard to tell from the images, but this is a very narrow site. And we looked at, like I said, we looked at 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms to see what can be feasibly provided, in addition to different requirements that we have to provide through zoning and through building code requirements. And unfortunately, it did not provide the opportunity for a 3-bedroom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Any additional questions? All right, actually, we have some questions in the Q&A. All right, this one seems to be answered.
Should I click on the Q&A or?
No, here we go. Sorry, I was just reading through a few of these.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, all of these have been answered, so I think these are fine. I think at this point, we are done, and I thank you for your time, Lakeisha. And I thank everyone for, coming in to this development activities meeting, and I wish you all a great evening. And again, the recording for this will be made available to all of the registered community organizations, and the development activities meeting report will be made available on the development activities meeting website. So I wish you all a great evening. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lakeisha.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.